Okay, today we're going to explore something which I didn't invent. This is a really easy way of making reliable cakes, but I've got my own little twist on it which we'll have a look at in a moment. It's known as the weigh the same method or the weigh the eggs method. And the basic idea is to make a nice sponge cake, all you actually do is you weigh your eggs. You do need a set of reasonably accurate scales for that. So you weigh your eggs and then you put in a mixing bowl, you put the same weight of flour, caster sugar, butter or vegetable fat and your eggs, and you whisk them up, and that will make a rather nice and very reliable sponge cake. However, we've got a little twist on that, so we'll have a look at how that works. But let's start off with our basic weigh the same mixture. So we've got 204 grams of eggs in their shells, so we just need to remember that number. So we zero our scales, and we're going to add the same weight of self-raising flour. £204 grams. It doesn't have to be exactly precise, but you know, close as we can get. So there we go, 200 and something grams. So that goes into our mixing bowl. Next we will have the same weight of caster sugar. Now, please don't ask me to give these recipe amounts in cups or bushels or whatever your local requirements are, because this only works by weight. You have to have a set of scales for this. That might be a bit of a disadvantage to you if you don't have scales, but these things are not expensive. And so I would recommend getting a set of cheap kitchen scales. They're not expensive and it can make all the difference to a recipe like this. So next we want the same weight of baking fat. If you use butter for this, you'll need to leave it out at room temperature for it to soften. I need to cook for people with lactose intolerance, so I'm using dairy-free vegetable fat. And again, we're just going to go for 200 and something grams of this fat. £205 grams. There we go. So, okay, and we just add that also into our mix. There we are. So what we've got now, once we add the eggs and beat that all together, would be a very reliable sponge cake mix. You put a bit of vanilla in there, something like that, for flavour. But we're going to take it in a slightly different direction. So we can extend this recipe by adding additional same weight of ingredients. And the way that works is if you add drier ingredients, such as these oats, you'll end up with something that's a little bit more like a cookie. And so then we can roll it into balls, we can put it on a cookie sheet and let it spread, and we'll end up with soft oat cookies. We can also then counteract that. The other thing we can do is add things like carrots. So if I add 200 grams of grated carrot in there and a little bit of pudding spice or mixed spice, we'll end up with actually quite a nice easy carrot cake. And then also there are wetter ingredients, so apples. So what I'm actually going to do today with this recipe, I've got 200 grams or 200 and something grams of everything in there. I'm actually going to add 204 grams of oats. Let's have a look. So this will make it a drier mix. It's quite a lot of oats. About 200 grams into my mixture, and I'm going to add 200 grams of apples and carrots, and we'll see what we end up with. So the apples, I'm just going to peel them like this, cut out any bad bits. These are apples that somebody gave me from their garden. They're very nice, very ripe. Cox's Pippins, so they're going to be really tasty. They've got a fantastic apple, deep apple flavour. So, but we got a few little holes and things in there, so we're just going to be a little bit judicious about what we take from this apple here and just make sure we leave any bad bits behind. So let's weigh out 200 and something grams of apple. That looks about right. Do you know what? I'm going to throw a bit of extra apple in anyway, just for good measure. So this apple we'll chop very finely and add it to our mixture. Now it doesn't matter that this is going to go brown because it's going to get cooked inside the cake. So the main and most important thing here is that we need to chop it very small. We could grate it, I suppose. Okay, so that took a little while, but there's my 200 grams of apple, and we're going to add that into the bowl. Perhaps we should have gone for a slightly larger bowl here actually, because we are adding quite a bit to a cake mixture here. I'm going to add 200 grams of carrots, so because that's the same weight as my eggs. So let's have a look and see. Yeah, almost exactly 200 grams, how about that? So we're going to grate these carrots, but I won't bother peeling them, they've been washed. So there we go, approximately 200 grams of grated carrots. And we'll get that in the mix too. Bowl is now getting very full, but never mind. Okay, now this is going to be a little bit of a boring cake if we don't put some spice or some flavour in it. So I think cinnamon is going to go really well with carrot and apple. So we're going to put about a heaped teaspoonful of cinnamon in the mix. And then finally the eggs. And I'll just crack those into a glass first, just to make sure I don't get any shell into the mixture. Okay, and in go the eggs. That's going to be interesting to mix because I think I've put too much in this bowl. But never mind, let's crack on and see what happens. So I'm going to use an electric beater to mix these together. You probably can mix this by hand, but I just find it easier to use one of these. I think if you're going to mix it by hand, you probably need to start off with a metal spoon to break up the fat, and then move on to a wooden spoon to beat it together. But I'm lazy, so I'm going to use electric whisk. So that's come together into a smoothish mixture. And what's happened here is our normal cake mixture, which would have been about this consistency, has been dried out by all those oats that I've put in, but then it's been re-moistened by the apples and carrots. So it's kept everything more or less balanced, which is good. So I'm going to preheat my oven while I get this into some muffin cases. Right, now we're just going to take big spoonfuls of our mixture and carefully deposit it in the muffin cases. Okay, just about right for 12 rather generous muffins. Let's just top up the ones that have got a bit less than the others. And we go around and scrape the bowl. Okay, so that's the muffin cases filled. They're going to go into the oven at 180 centigrade for initially 20 minutes, and then we'll take them out and test them, and maybe they might need a little bit further baking. Let's have a look. So 20 minutes, clearly not nearly enough. They're just starting to brown on this side. So I think what we'll do, we won't even test them with a stick at the moment. Just going to turn them around like that so they cook evenly. And I think we'll give that another 10 minutes. Okay, so those have been in for a total of 30 minutes now. Now let's just test them. They look like they could be done, but let's give them a test. So we put a cocktail stick in there, stick that into the middle of the muffin, and there's no sticky cake mix coming out on the stick. So those, I would say, are done. So we're going to leave those to cool for about 20 minutes probably before we even try to move them. So these have been cooling actually for probably about half an hour now. So let's give them a try. Now, because they've got the oats in there, they are actually quite a dense muffin. But look how lovely and soft and crumbly those are. So let's have a little taste. Those are really good. Quiet dog. Those are really good. And the juices from the apple and the carrots have hydrated those oats and made it into a really lovely, luscious, crumbly but soft cake. That little hint of cinnamon coming through just completes and rounds off the flavour. That actually would be really nice with some custard eaten as a dessert. That's how to adapt that way the same recipe to make a variety of different things. In this case, oat, carrot and apple muffins. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you again soon.